The price of gold and silver is still heading downwards. Should you be worried? Are we at the bottom? Will it go even lower because of the vaccine? Well, let's find out. I'm going to show you a little bit what I have on the table before I start talking about the main topic, which is the vaccine and the prices of gold and silver, and also a bit of platinum. So on the table, I have some of my Dragon bars. I really like these bars. They're bullion bars. They are backed by the Australian government. And then here I have some Buffalo rounds. I have 10 ounces of Buffalo rounds. And these are Swiss 20 franc coins, the LMU, Latin Monetary Union coins. They're very nice. For me, these are relatively low premium and very liquid coins. And let me see if I can focus there. Perfect. These are relatively low premium for me, and they are very good because, well, they're relatively liquid. Banks buy them. I've shown them in previous videos, and I've shown you the prices of what banks buy them for. I'll post a link towards that video. Now, to the main topic I want to talk about today is over the last 3 days, the markets have been reacting a little bit euphorically to the news that, we might be getting a vaccine. And I talked more about it in the last video where I talked more about gold's price, and it was right after the drop. Now, gold did go down. Gold went down over $100 once the news was released. And then you saw the Dow Jones go up 5%. You saw a tech stock sell off. People were like, oh, pandemic is over. I just want to clarify, they have a vaccine candidate. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But if you read more about what it takes to get this vaccine to people, right? It's not easy. First of all, the vaccine needs to be kept at minus 109 degrees Fahrenheit, which is minus 70-ish degrees Celsius. It needs special containment. You need a lot of dry ice, apparently. There is a shortage of dry ice currently in the whole of the United States. And that's going to be a major challenge. Essentially, what they need to do to ship the vaccine and to keep it cool enough is to ship a small quantity of the vaccine in a large container with a lot of dry ice. So you can think of like a steak box, and you pack your frozen steaks in there, and you put dry ice into the steak box, and that's how you pack your vaccine. What are the challenges with it? Well, first of all, dry ice is a bit of a pain to handle in large quantities, because you can't just flush it down the drain of your toilet. That would damage your pipes. It'll probably cause a flood in your hospital if you do that. You will need to have a well-ventilated area if you want to get rid of dry ice. Why do I say you might want to get rid of dry ice? Well, if you are, let's say you finish all your vaccine stock and you're expecting new shipment of dry ice, when you unpack, you're going to have to take the dry ice out. You can't just leave it on the counter. You can't just leave it in a closed room either, because people suffocate. It's carbon dioxide. So it's not imminently dangerous, but it's not a really easy thing to handle. For reference, I was looking this online. Most modern vaccines, the lowest temperature requirement for modern vaccines, that means in facilities that already exist, is minus 20 degrees, right? Now we want to go to minus 109 degrees. That's a really big jump. I don't know if you realize that, but it's quite a jump in the temperature requirements. Pfizer says that they will have they'll produce a box, and I think it'll just be a insulated cooler with a lot of dry ice in it. That's pretty much the only way a box like that will work. And then they'll deliver it. The requirements on the box is that it can only be opened up to 2 times a day. And when you open it, I think you cannot open it for more than 1 minute during each time. So basically, it means that for each container, you can do 2 sets of shots during that one day. And then when you open it, take the vaccine out. Uh, Within, I think, 5 minutes, it must be injected into the patient. You're like, wow, that's really stringent. So within the first 6 minutes, you must not have any delays for you to have your shot. And it must be done twice, not once, but twice. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like it will be a relatively difficult logistic task to do. And the dry ice needs to be replenished, I think they say every single 10 days in the box. And you're like, okay, so if you are going to wait 10 days, let's say you are storing this thing, it doesn't seem like it's really easy to store. Now, the real advantage of the type of vaccine they're making is, unlike traditional vaccines, it's only DNA instructions. So they can, I think, synthesize it in vats made out of fungus or amoeba. So basically, they can make a large quantity of it very cheaply. That's the advantage. The disadvantage, well, you see, it's got really, really stringent storage requirements, because essentially it's just exposed DNA. And if you know anything about DNA within the cell is relatively stable. You have different things that keep it together. When you expose DNA out of its cell, it's very, very fragile. Shine it into light and you get a lot of UV radiation, it's gonna break it apart. So it's not take it into sunlight, it's gonna break it apart. So you can't really it's not easy to store DNA. That's why they have to keep it at such cold temperatures. Yeah, so do I think that the market is overreacting to the news of the vaccine? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's over exuberant, especially in the travel sector, because a lot of the public health experts, right? We can say like, oh, experts can make mistakes, but if you have a lot of experts and also a lot of people who are expected to implement this say that they have no idea how they're going to do this because they've never done it before, or they don't even know where to start to get dry ice. And when they start contacting people to buy dry ice, they're told that no, it's out of stock. Everywhere around the country, it's kind of out of stock. Pfizer said that states could use their suppliers, but there's no detail on how to do that or who to contact or what is the stock. Because you have to imagine, when you get dry ice, you also have to store dry ice because otherwise it just evaporates. So it has to be almost a just-in-time process. That means that a specialized supplier who is able to store dry ice must be able to also deliver dry ice on this within the day to all different hospitals that need dry ice within the states, across the whole country. And I think I'll put the news article. I was reading this news article about what was coming out of the Pfizer meeting about the distribution of the vaccine. And the funny thing was, people at the meeting who were listening into it, and they were discussing or texting each other about how to distribute and how to store the vaccine. They were just sending each other exploding head emojis because they're like, "This is crazy. We don't have the facilities to do this." Like, it's not a lack of will. It's not like they can store apples. They just need to keep it cold, or they just don't have the technology or it's physically almost impossible to do it. For a lot of places, rural places, probably you won't see vaccines in rural areas. If you're not within a major city, you're probably not going to see the vaccine. That's just how it is. It's just because there's very high stringent requirements to keep the vaccine viable. Do I think it'll improve? Yeah, I think potentially it'll improve. When will it improve? I don't know. I have no idea when it will improve. Do I think the market is reacting too early? Yes. Imagine this. Right now, let's say you've invested into a lot of recovery stocks. Those companies just stay afloat until the situation improves. Or else your stocks are worth nothing if they go bankrupt before before things improve. It's not like there's no how do I say it? We have an idea of how it could end, and we have hope, right? we know like we can beat it. We know that we have systems that can beat it. But right now, we don't have the system in place. And the amount it takes to get the system in place right now, in the current situation, is almost as difficult as developing the vaccine, if not more difficult than developing the vaccine. So what does that mean? I think people are overhyped on the fact that they've made the scientific discovery of how to beat the pandemic. I don't think that was something that we should be surprised about because, it's pretty much basic science, and just having enough test subjects and you will get a vaccine. It's not magic, it's science. It's very, very, as long as you do the processes and you do it enough times, and you do enough testing, and then you have enough trials and you have enough test subjects, you're going to get a result. What are the long-term impacts of the vaccine? Nobody knows. What are the short-term impacts of the vaccine? The FDA will conduct trials and they'll say they're pretty sure it's safe, at least in the short term. Do we know about the long-term effects? No, we don't know about the long-term effects. But who knows? I don't think it's like, before when they first released DDT. I don't know if you know about DDT. Essentially, it was a pesticide. And later on, they discovered it gave people cancer. So, yeah, sometimes they approve things. We use it. It was pretty good. It was used, I think, in large quantities across many countries and states to get rid of malaria. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. It also killed a lot of things that it wasn't supposed to kill. It gave a lot of people cancer. They stopped using it. It doesn't mean everybody will die. Was it cost effective? Probably. Was it ethical? No, not really. It was cost effective, but it wasn't ethical. Now, what do I think has been happening to the price of gold and silver? I think people have been over exuberant about the outcome. They're like, finally, some certainty. The certainty is the pandemic is beatable. Well, I would say that was mostly probable that sooner or later we would have a vaccine. But people just were not. They were like, but there's a difference between knowing it in terms of in your head, thinking like, yeah, it could be done, and seeing it being done. And right now, people are, based upon the data that Pfizer released, they're saying, oh, yeah, we think it's done. But to put a bit of context around the data they've released, I was looking a bit at what they were saying. So I think they tested over 40,000 subjects. They gave into two groups. It's double-blinded. Some of them received placebo, and some of them received the vaccine. At this rate, they haven't said which group they've received a result from 94 candidates, right? 94 candidates have come back and they have a result from those 94 candidates out of the 40,000 people that they gave that were involved in the trial. And out of those, people are speculating because we don't have the details of the data, but it seems promising, at least on this stage, that 4 people out of the 94, and those 4 people were the ones who were vaccinated, and the 94 others were the ones who received placebos. The 4 people who were vaccinated did not get the virus. Could it be up to probability, just like pure chance? It's slim, it's possible. Do I think that they have something that provides some level of protection against the virus? Yes, I'm not like too optimistic, but I'm not too like pessimistic either. I think they're on the right track, but until you have the full result and then you have all of the side effects mapped out, it's not approved. It's not a marketable vaccine yet. Now, I think the markets are overreacting because they are not taking into consideration the logistical distribution problems that we could see with the vaccine. People are buying into recovery stocks because they think they're cheap right now, and they think that, oh yeah, they're going to recover and then business is going to be all good and hunky-dory was in by the end of the year. I think that's kind of the expectation, because in Pfizer's news release, they say that they're going to provide 60 million vials by the end of year. It's not really hard to make, like I said, it's not hard to make DNA vaccines. It's if you have the formula, it's really easy to produce it, but it's not easy to transport it. And that's the real challenge. The challenge is distribution and timely administration. And when they have the vials produced, and if they really want to beat the pandemic with the vaccine, they have to do it within 7 months, right? They need to give the 2 shots and do that for everybody within 7 months to beat it. And why do I say 7 months? Because the effectiveness of the vaccine is 7 months. So unless you have everybody vaccinated and herd immunity within 7 months, you could have the virus just constantly just spreading at a low key level and spreading around. And also, they don't have data whether it's working well with high risk groups or if it's only in healthy individuals. It's not the whole data set is not clear yet. They've released a preliminary data. This is something that I'm a bit on the fence about, is that there were three, I believe there was Moderna also released preliminary data, and then their vaccine didn't pass immediately, and then they have to do further testing and development for it. It takes time, and it's not a guaranteed result. It's a promising result. Promising doesn't mean that it will turn out to be true. It means that it's possible that it's true. I mean, the Democrats, most people were expecting a blue wave. That was the most promising thing that they, according to the polls, but that was wrong. Is it promising? Science, of course, is not like polling, but they don't have the full set of information yet, and they're still waiting for it. And based on the preliminary information, it's a little bit too early to be so euphoric about the vaccine. Now, silver and gold, do I think they are they're oversold? Yeah, I think they're a little bit oversold at the moment. People have piled into what essentially I think is complete utter. These are stocks that I don't think are even going to recover, even if we have a vaccine. People don't have confidence. That's the problem right now. You can have a perfectly fine vaccine, but the case is people don't have confidence in the United States, right? People have been put out of business. People have rent problems and debt issues. A vaccine isn't going to solve it. You need more than a vaccine to solve that. You'll need fiscal stimulus. You'll need monetary stimulus. You'll need, I have no idea. You need better economic policies. You need massive public confidence programs to bring people back to their confidence level up. You have to demonstrate key milestones and successes. I think right now people don't want to take into consideration that the vaccine might fail and the distribution of the vaccine might fail, because it's quite a terrible thought if you think about that. And humans, we don't like to think about bad things, and that's why shutdowns never work, because people don't want to be locked up, because they don't want to think about they don't want to be bored, and they want to have a normal life. It's absolutely normal. I think the reaction of the market, gold and silver is oversold. Gold and silver have, even without, let's say we just had this pandemic and then 6 months ago we had a vaccine, right? Which was the case. We had a vaccine candidate. There were quite a few companies saying that they had a vaccine candidate out, and then the markets were euphoric, and we saw actually a correction in the price of gold and silver when they said that they would have a vaccine. And what happened when they were not able to deliver on the promise? Well, gold and silver shot up. They shot up by a huge amount. That's where they went to their all-time highs after that. Do I think that we're going to see that this time? Maybe not. I think people are just fed up with seeing all the anxiety, and they want recovery stocks to recover. That's what people want. Now, will they recover? Will the companies recover? Will they provide enough earnings to show that they're recovering? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think we're heading towards a crisis, and people are not preparing themselves enough for the crisis. I don't think that we will not recover. I think we will recover. I think that people are prematurely thinking that we are going to recover really, really quickly. I was talking to a friend, and he was saying, yeah, we have a vaccine now. I don't have to worry at all. I said, no. How are you going to get the vaccine? He's like, well, they just give it to you. And in his head, like he didn't read the news. He didn't read the details. He didn't read the fine print. He's like, in his head, when he read vaccine from Pfizer, in his head, it was just like getting any other vaccine. You just have to go to the doctor, and the doctor will have vials ready on the table on his desk. I said, no, it has to be preserved at minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And he was like, oh shit. Yeah, how are they gonna do that? I was like, I don't know. But it means that you need a ton of dry ice, you need special storage. And for reference, most cold, like the current vaccine storage systems we have in place only go up to minus 20. And he was like, oh crap. So they need new systems to be put into place for storage before they can deliver it? I was like, pretty much. And he was like, yeah, that's going to take years. I was like, yeah, it is going to take years. When you tell the facts as it is, a lot of the news outlets, or they report the facts. It's just that most people gloss over it. They don't look at the whole, issue with the distribution before they start buying stocks and saying like there's a vaccine, and then they're super euphoric. And for reference, this friend, he works in the finance sector, and he was like, oh shit, maybe I should be a little bit more careful about buying recovery stocks and then putting the bet into recovery. It's like, yeah, don't go all in onto recovery. Put a little bit, because right now there's more hope. But and it's clear what the path is. But to get from point A to point B of the path, you might have a very, very long journey. That's what I'm just saying. We know that where is point A, but right now people are buying the stocks saying that point A is only 1 mile, but point A is actually like 500 miles away. And before we get to from point B to point A, or from point A to point B, there's a distance of 500 miles, and the markets are reacting as if the distance is actually only 1 mile. So, so do I think gold and silver, you should keep stacking gold and silver? I think you should keep stacking gold and silver. We'll see what happens once they start doing stimulus. It's not here yet. Probably we won't see until, like I said, next year, beginning February. Why do I say that? Like I said before, Trump's going to contest the election. Some Republicans might continue to back him because, they were expecting to not win the Senate. Now there's some hope. Then now they're like, oh, maybe not. I don't know. But I think he's going to continue to contest the election. And he's showing signs that he's going to strongly contest the election. I see some, like I say, I want to talk about the pricing, and I'm not big on technical analysis. I do use it sometimes to see if I see some signals. I see some bearish signals, not as if it's saying that we're going to go into a strong bear market, but there are also quite some long-term trends that indicate a bull signal too. So it's like you have mixed signals right now. The reason for that is very simple. Normally, technical analysis works well when you have a trend established and people are cycling through the trend, and they're going through their daily cycles through their trend. And technical analysis really is good when you look. It's essentially a tool to benchmark psychological cycles of people and their buy and sell cycles. And right now, people aren't. It's not like the trend isn't fixed. The trend is constantly a constant moving target, because people are trading based upon news. They're doing what's called news trading. They're looking at the news and they're pricing in their future expectations. And there's always new news coming in, right? Currently, there is sort of these different factors. There's one thing that's pushing sort of precious metals up, and that's the idea of stimulus. There's another thing that's pushing metals down, and there's the thinking that we'll have less stimulus because there's going to be a massive recovery because of the vaccine. Then there's this expectation, uncertainty about like Trump's challenge. That's also somewhat priced in. Whether it's realized or not, we'll see about that. There's also some pricing in of the massive debt that the United States has, and then people are like, yeah, so the value is not the same, and they can see it. And especially if you're of the older generation, like I was talking to my father, and he was saying, yeah, I remember like with $1 when I traveled, I could buy much more around the world. And I was like, yeah, and he said today, if he had the same, he was to receive the same amount in dollars for his pension and salary and so on, he would be maybe like getting 50% more than what he would be getting today. And he's like, yeah, it's really like terrible, the dollar losing value. I was like, yeah, well, they don't have a choice. So that's something to think about. Also, one thing I think is that gold and silver, there's a lot of noise in the market and they're much more volatile. Overall, I think that the forces that are pushing the prices of precious metals up are stronger than the short-term news about vaccines and then recovery. The reason is, even if we have recovery, the damage is done. It hasn't been fixed yet, right? The damage on the overall economy has been done. It's there. Unemployment is there. Businesses being put out of going bankrupt, it's there. It's already in the market. Recovery just means it's a healing process. It takes money and time to recover. And what do you need to do to have recovery? You need to spend, and you will need to devalue your currency, readjust it back to, and then also fund programs to bring back recovery. Can the market recover by itself? Yes, the market can recover by itself, and the economy can recover by itself, but typically that's a very, very long and painful process, and it can also lead to social instability. That's what a lot of governments don't want to do. And why do I say that? Why do I think the force is pushing precious metals up further than is stronger than the short-term sort of news trading? Is when I look at platinum. So right now, my benchmark in terms of the forces of what should be the trend for precious metals is mainly I look at platinum. And you're like, yeah, but platinum isn't a currency, it's not really money. Yes, but it's correlated right now. If you look at the midterm, right, besides the industrial use, right now platinum has very low industrial use. It's used somewhat, but it's not heavily used as before. Before, we had a lot more diesel cars, and diesel fell out of favor due to Volkswagens and their diesel scandal. So people start buying less diesel cars, and people aren't using platinum. People, when they buy new cars, they're buying petrol cars, and petrol cars uses palladium too. So platinum has very little use besides basic industrial uses. However, when I look at which metal recovers the most in every time there's a new cycle, it's platinum. And if I look at how platinum, how its price is moving relative to, for example, over the last few years to cycles of monetary easing and asset inflation, it tends to be relatively well correlated to it. So I think right now, what I'm looking at least for now, is I think the forces pushing precious metals upwards are a little bit sort of more established than the short-term forces pushing metals downwards. And I think, like just keep buying, keep stacking. There's no other advice I'm gonna give. I think you're going to be relatively safe if you don't overstretch yourself. That means that, like I say, don't overextend yourself. I have a video, I'll put the link in the video about budgeting. You should budget, and you should budget how much you can stack per month in physical metals. Like I said, for me, it's like roughly I buy twice a month, and I buy typically 5 ounces of silver and 1 fractional piece of gold, right? Or I buy like last time, I would buy one piece of platinum and a fractional piece of gold. Platinum's so cheap right now that yeah, it's accessible. It's really a good alternative right now for gold. The only problem I have with platinum is a lot of places charge tax on platinum, and you have to take that into consideration when you buy platinum. So yeah, am I going to still stack? Yeah, I'm still stacking. I have some gold. Every time I see the gold drops into the red zone, that means sub. Right now, I ordered some when it was at 1860, right after the drop, and then I'm probably going to order some more by the end of the month. I'm buying a bit more of gold. Am I buying silver? I think I will buy some near the end of the year. I'll stack some more numismatic type silver, and that will be my Christmas present for myself to cheer myself up. And also I'll give it to some friends. I'll be sending out some presents to friends for Christmas in the form of silver. That was all I had to say today. Don't worry too much about the news of the vaccine. Either way, if metals recover, they're going to have to give stimulus. If there is a vaccine and people are getting better, there will be a demand for stimulus, and there will be a demand. I mean, Mitch McConnell might not want to have a big bill for stimulus, but if in 1 year, you have a massive recession because so many companies are going bust because they just don't have customers. People aren't coming to buy stuff. And I'm not just talking like, oh yeah, they don't have manufacturing businesses. Most businesses, in order to have sales, right, you have a portion that goes through online sales. But for example, clothing retail, also a lot of these, how do you say it, small to mid-sized businesses that are restaurants and so on, they need foot traffic. They can't survive just on deliveries. Deliveries supplement the downtimes when there's no foot traffic. But overall, most of their business is made during the time when there's foot traffic. And people tend to consume more when they travel into a supermarket and walk around, right? People don't consume as much when they're buying online. And, if people consume less, it hurts the economy. And even so, yeah, right now they're not consuming. And for me, what I'm looking at is what's going to happen, by when is Black Friday? I have to look it up. I'm not from the United States, but yeah, what's going to happen for here? It'll be for Christmas shopping. What will happen in Europe during Christmas shopping period, right? Right before Christmas, people are buying their presents. Are they going to all order online? Are they going to order the same quantity? If they're buying the same amount, then sure, yeah, I think we'll have a much faster recovery. If people are not buying and consuming at the same rate and they're now in the mentality of saving money because of uncertainty, recovery is going to be much slower. So that's what I had to say. If you like the content, just let me know what you think. I have quite a few viewers who have been commenting. I learned that, for example, that British pilots keep 25 gold sovereigns on them in case something happens and they crash, and they can use gold to trade for services and get themselves out of their dire situation. So let me know what